Hello and welcome to this presentation on Associate Examining at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama. My name is Zoe Smith and I'm the Head of Postgraduate Programmes at the college. Even if you've been an Associate Examiner for us before, we'd really appreciate you taking the time to review the information in this presentation because we have made some changes to our processes. Here's a brief overview of what's covered in this presentation. We'll take a look at the documentation, discuss the people and roles, talk about what we're asking of you, how the assessments will run, how the discussions will flow, how we go about agreeing the mark and some additional feedback, and then a little thought about after the exam sessions. So this is the documentation that is relevant to your post as Associate Examiner. On the college side, we'll be supplying contract and payroll information, an expenses form and an Associate Examiner report form, which is completed online. And once it's sent back to us, that triggers your payment. In terms of the assessment processes, we have a booklet which is guidance for Associate Examiners, and we'll supply the schedule for assessments. We'll introduce you to the criteria for assessments, including supplementary departmental criteria. Level 6 is BMUS 3 and 4, and Level 7 is postgraduate. And we'll also share with you the mark sheet in this presentation. Here are the various people that you may encounter during your time with us as Associate Examiner. You'll already have been in touch with our music manager, Amy Badger, who organises the administration of the exam period. During the exam assessments, you'll be looked after by the head of department and the chair of the exam panel, who may be another head of department or one of the core members of staff, such as the Director of Music, the Deputy Director of Music, the head of undergraduate programmes, or me as head of postgraduate programmes. We could also be visited by an external examiner who is looking at our assessment processes. So they are examining us as an exam panel. What are we asking of you as our Associate Examiner? Well, we're asking you to bring externality, an open mind, and your impartial professional perspective to the assessment processes. We hope that you're able to offer musical and general technical advice based on your knowledge and experience as you listen to the performance. We'd like you to balance positive comments with constructive criticism, and we're hoping that you will be providing helpful feedback that gives students guidance for what to work on next. Rest assured that the feedback that you provide to them is discussed with their one-to-one teacher in lessons and also with their head of department in pastoral meetings. We are in the process of moving to digital assessments wherever possible, so if you are digitally fluent and confident and you'd like to use your own device, such as an iPad or laptop, you're very welcome to bring that with you. We've introduced something new in our exam process this year, instituting a panel meeting at the start of every day of the exam sessions. On the first day of exams, this forms an opportunity for us to have a panel briefing. On other days, it will allow for panels who are running over multiple days to just check where they are in the examining process and go over anything that needs to be tidied up in terms of exam processes, feedback, etc. On your first session with us, you'll be collected by the head of department from the foyer while the chair brings all of the documentation and paraphernalia associated with the exams. You'll meet in the exam venue and the chair will take you through all of the paperwork and the processes, including the panel record sheet and our blind marking processes. And they'll also share details of any special arrangements for any of the candidates. They will also discuss the requirements for each year group's performance to make sure that everybody is aware of any issues that need to be noted, such as duration or particular repertoire requirements. The head of department and the chair will be working digitally on laptops during this process. As mentioned before, if you also want to be digitally fluent within this, then you're very welcome to do that too. We will ask you to acknowledge any prior contact with students, and all of us are expected to leave any past knowledge of that candidate at the door. So there would be no mention from the head of department or the chair of anything relating to that student beyond the performance on that day. Here we have a snapshot of the exam table set up in the Western Gallery. So you can see that the Associate Examiner is placed right in the centre of activities. The chair will be looking after the performers to make sure that they're ready and set. The head of department will be looking after the audience coming into the venue and also making sure we have copies of the music that you can be looking at as you're reviewing the performance and formulating your feedback. The chair has responsibility for recording the assessment and is also the first call for any operational issues. You will have been introduced to our supplementary criteria for your department during the briefing session, and we'll be giving you access to a copy of this as you're listening to the performance so that you can draw on the language of the criteria to reflect what you're hearing. And of course, the performance can have highs and lows in it, so different elements, different pieces may be at different levels. So we understand this is a challenge in terms of reflecting accurately what you're hearing. This is a quick glimpse at the mark sheet that you'll be using. You can see that the first 2/3 of the page are taken up with someone else's writing, so then details of the student and the performance, and also the space where we sign and where the panel chair writes the summary comment following the panel's discussions. You write in the bottom box of the first page. You can go on to the second page, and we can give you follow-on sheets if you need. So we're asking you to write in the moment, in full sentences if possible, and to balance positive and negative comments. It's really important that there's some feed forward. What do they need to work on to make this performance better in future? And as just mentioned previously, we'd really encourage you to be using the language in the criteria to reinforce the students' understanding of this feedback and where their performance lies. Once we've listened to the performance, we move into the process articulated in this document, which deals with blind marking. We're going to ask you, after you've heard the performance, to look at the criteria and consider your own mark for the performance. We're asking you to consider a band of 5 marks, which can cross over categories, and we'll give you a post-it note to write it down on. We'll then share those marks between the Associate Examiner, the Head of Department and the Chair, and they'll be transcribed onto the panel record sheet. The Chair will then facilitate a discussion between you as the Associate and the Head of Department. This will help to agree the mark and also to help you focus a final summary comment which ties the feedback to the mark to the category. So again, we'll be drawing on the criteria to bring that all together. The Chair will also mention any penalties that might need to be considered once the mark has been finalised, and they will also sculpt a summary comment on behalf of the panel. So we're anchoring at all times the mark and feedback to the criteria to really help the student understand their level of achievement. We'll be using this process every time for each student to make sure that each assessment is run in a transparent and equitable fashion. If something has gone awry, you may be asked, or you may yourself ask, to rewrite a form. If a performance has had many different shades in it and it's a challenge to write, to formulate in the moment effective commentary, then we will ask you to do this. It will need to be done in the building. We're not allowed to release mark sheets outside the premises due to GDPR. Just a quick illustration of how the criteria can help to come to a decision on a student. You may have a performance that has different elements within it. So you can see here I've highlighted what could potentially be the characteristics of a performance that you've heard from one of our BMUS3s. So the panel could be highlighting these boxes and looking at those to see where they really truly feel that the performance sits. The Chair will be sculpting these discussions, bringing in their expertise in terms of working across the entire college as a moderating member of staff. This may sound daunting and challenging and complicated, but please rest assured that the Head of Department and the Chair are there to support you through this process. We do ask you to respect complete confidentiality. No results should be discussed with teachers or students inside or outside of the institution. And if anybody tries to contact you to discuss their feedback, then please redirect them immediately to the Head of Department. We ask you to make sure that you send back your completed expenses form and complete the Associate Examiner report form, which will be sent to you by email to ensure that you trigger payment for your work with us. It only remains for me to say thank you so much for taking the time to review this presentation, and also many thanks for taking on this role. We really look forward to welcoming you to the college and to working with you in this exam period. Thank you very much.